here's a softball for you, Prime Minister. You've made it clear again, you've reiterated that the Treaty Principles Bill will not proceed.
Yep.
Can you tell us if there's anything in that bill that you like or what you dislike most about it?
No, there isn't anything I like.
So the whole thing to you is a complete waste of time?
I didn't support it in opposition. Our party didn't support it in opposition. As I've said many, many times before, we've come to a compromise. Neither National or ACT got what they wanted. We are supporting it to first reading, but there'll be no support from the National Party beyond that. We won't be changing our mind.
The Green Party has called for a
conscience vote.
Sorry, Jamie?
The Greens want a conscience vote on the Treaty Principles Bill. Would you support that?
No, we have a coalition agreement and a commitment that we need to uphold and honour, and we will.
Why not let your MPs voice their own opinion?
Because we're in an MMP environment. It's a modern MMP environment. It's a maturing one. It means that our parties, when they have a mandate to form a government, as the National Party did, we need to work with other parties to do exactly that. And this is what we've decided to do in our coalition agreement, and it reflects that. But as I said, we won't be supporting it beyond the first reading.
When the Hikoi arrives,
Sorry? What do you make of the depth of feeling amongst some of the protesters taking part in the Hikoi at the moment?
Yeah, look, I understand it. There's immense frustration in MMP around this Treaty Principles Bill, and I understand why, and I get that. But equally, as I've said, we are supporting it to first reading, and it won't be supported beyond that. Claire?
When the Hikoi
do you have any, just still on the Hikoi, have you had any briefings on the plans for when they hit Auckland, and do you have a message for those on the Hikoi?
Yeah, look, I mean, my key message really is that, we want all New Zealanders to have the right to a peaceful protest. It's really important to me. We're expecting a large crowd. I certainly would urge everyone involved to stay safe and to be safe. I'd certainly, as I said before, I understand the depth of feeling from Māori around the Treaty Principles Bill. I think some of them are fearful that we will change our mind. We will not be changing our mind. We will not be supporting it at second reading. But my real desire is, look, everyone has a right to protest legally and peacefully, and importantly, we want them to stay safe.
Have you given any thought to whether or not you will go out and meet them or accept a delegation from the Hikoi once they get to Wellington to come and talk to you?
Personally, I'm really open to that, but we'll wait and see where it gets to.
Sorry, can I just follow up with that? You're personally open to going and addressing the Hikoi when it arrives to Parliament?
Yeah, or meeting people, representatives from the Hikoi, but we'll work our way through that in due course. Yep.
Do you think that you or one of your ministers will actually go out there to speak? There'll be an opportunity for representatives from various different political parties to go out there and speak. Will the National Party or the government be one of them?
Look, again, we'll work our way through that. As I said, I'm open to it, but we'll see where we get to.
Minister, you've said that nothing about the bill that you like. There's nothing about the bill that you like. You're not letting the conscience vote. Your name is going to be on record as voting for that bill. How does that make you feel?
Well, as I've said many, many times before, we live in a mature MMP environment, just like we see throughout Western Europe. You have a number of parties come together to form a government. In our case, our coalition government has massive alignment around the economy, around health and education, around law and order, all that good stuff. But you also have to acknowledge that each party has different issues that it wants to prosecute and to aerate in government. And as a result, that's why we do coalition agreements. That's why we come to coalition government. We're not in a first past the post system inside an MMP environment. We're in an MMP environment, and it's maturing. And so as a result, parties, if you think about the parties that are represented in Parliament today, 6 parties, they have 6 quite different positions, talking to New Zealanders that they represent, and they are entitled to put their views forward. In this case, we've come to a position where the National Party did not campaign on this bill. The National Party did not support this bill before the election. We do not like this bill. We will not be supporting it. Equally, for the ACT Party, a full-scale national referendum is really what they would like to have achieved in it. We've come to a compromise. This is the compromise. I get it. There'll be people that will be frustrated on all sides of that debate about that conversation. But this is a modern MMP environment coming to life in New Zealand several decades after it was formed. And as I've said, we have a policy to move it through to first reading, and then beyond that, we will vote it down.
What do you think it would do to the coalition relationship, especially with ACT, if you were to go out and address that Hikoi?
I haven't thought about that, and frankly, we will do after it's been supported at first reading. Parties are free to do what they wish to do around the bill.
Do you have any regrets?
Are you worried that the division that is caused here could harm the National Party, though?
Well, I'm not, actually that's not my consideration. My view has been from the very beginning, as I said before the election, is that I think this bill, we don't support it because we think it is divisive. And, we're proud of the Treaty of Waitangi. Yes, we've had to grapple with it as a country over many decades. We'll continue to grapple with it as we go forward. But the reality for us is, in the National Party, this is the position we've got to.
Just as all the hikois converge in the major centres across the country, as you sit in the House and listen, well, you won't be at the first reading, but as you sit in question in time and hear a lot of the criticism that the opposition puts against you, watching all the media coverage about this, is there any point where you've had any sort of regret around accepting this as a clause in the coalition agreement?
No, this is the reality of a modern MMP environment. If I talk to my counterparts living as Prime Ministers in Western European countries, of which I've spoken to several of them about how coalitions work in their domains, they have very similar systems to us. This is quite normal, and I tried to say that at the very beginning when we formed our government. We're doing something unique. We have a three-party coalition. Many countries in Western Europe have four-party coalitions. They might have 6 parties, some even have 11 in parts of other coalition environments around the world. So, this is the reality of the system that the New Zealand public have voted for and supported and said that's the system we expect you as politicians to operate within. We want to have governments that have reflections and representations from lots of different perspectives. We find the common ground that we can agree upon, acknowledging that there are differences. There are things that the National Party will want to do that the either ACT or New Zealand First won't want to do, and vice versa. But that doesn't make us just because it doesn't need to be a monolithic single first past the post view of the world. A coalition government, quite rightly, when you go and operate and look at how it works in other parts of the world, it's quite normal that parties will have their pet things that they are very fixated and focused on that will be different from their coalition partners, and it's about having a maturity to be able to progress those different elements that are important to the other parties in those coalition governments.
Are you not worried about upsetting David Seymour by calling this one of his, quote, pet things?
No. I mean, it's just the reality of how it is. I mean, there are things that are important to the National Party that David Seymour would say that are not important to him. And that's perfectly legitimate and perfectly reasonable. But what you can see is you can see a coalition government that I think a year into it, people would say is actually really stable, actually has been working incredibly well together, has used the combined talents of the individual ministers to put them on the right assignments to actually deliver for New Zealanders. And so, as I come close to the 12-month mark, hopefully 12-year in due course, but 12 months for now, I can tell you I feel incredibly proud of actually that we have assembled a three-party coalition government. Yes, it's new and it's different for New Zealand, but it's actually what New Zealanders have asked us to do by voting for the MMP system time and time again, and we are making it work, and we are I think we're doing it in a very mature way, in a very, and the government is cohesive and coherent.
Prime Minister, is it a mature approach to rule out supporting the bill at the second reading after you don't know what the public consultation will be on this bill? There could be amendments to the bill, for example, that make it easier to pallet. Is that a mature way to approach this?
Well, again, our view is that we have not supported this bill from the very beginning. We see no need for it. It's not something the National Party will be supporting from here. So I appreciate there's an aeration through a public, through a select committee process where the public can engage on all sides of that debate, and that gives the aeration of the issue that I suspect the ACT Party would like to participate. They'd obviously like more and to drive it into a full national referendum. But as I said, we're going to vote it down in the second reading, and I suspect if the opposition parties do the same, then it won't be a law.
How have you found dealing with David Seymour on this? Because publicly he's called you anti-democratic. He's I'm trying to look for a word that describes his behaviour other than bratty. How have you found him behind the scenes?
Well, look, I mean, I think, you come to politics and you're in the people business, right? And there are lots of personalities and there are lots of parties and there are lots of policies that everyone comes to this place with, a set of views around. And so actually how you coherently get first and foremost, you would have asked me the same question about dealing with people in the National Party caucus, 3 or 4 years ago in our dysfunction period. We've pulled that team together and we're... Sorry?
Is this a dysfunction?
No, it's not. No, it's not. But it's about the reality. I'm trying to give you an insight into, you're asking me a question as the leader of a coalition government, how I think about getting the best out of the team that I have and the people that I have. And I'm very, very proud of ACT ministers, New Zealand First ministers, National Party ministers, who are actually working incredibly coherently and cohesively behind the scenes together. We're working through issues where we will have differences, but we deal with that and we have processes to deal with that in a calm, mature, there's no histrionics, there's no screaming, shouting, ranting, raving, it's all very sorted, and we work our way through the issues and potential conflicts along the way. So, as we should, right, that's what the New Zealand people expect us to do.
Are you confident that New Zealanders are happy with the principles of the treaty as they stand, how they have been arrived at, and how they are applied within our society?
Well, there will be a range of views across New Zealand about the Treaty of Waitangi, as there has been for decades. Well, as I say, as there has been for decades, there's a range of views around the principles as well. But what I'd say to you is that the Treaty of Waitangi has been with us from the founding of this great country. It's going to continue to be with us. We have wrestled with it, we have grappled with it, but it has enabled the Crown and Māori to work together and work our way through very complex and very difficult issues. And I would just say to you, if you look at other examples of race relations around the world, as imperfect as our history has been, this has served us incredibly well, the ability to continue to engage on difficult, complex and challenging issues.
And what about the treaty principle bill would stop that happening in future?
Well, from my point of view, as I said to you, it's not something we support. I think it's a very simplistic, my view, a very simplistic interpretation of the Treaty of Waitangi that has served us, I think, incredibly well. And to simplify it down in the way through a piece of legislation like this, I think is a disservice to the treaty. Personal view. Okay, thank you, team. Have a good rest of the day. We'll see you tomorrow.